You know something? Right now, in this very moment, you have access to a power that can solve every single problem you're facing. Every single one. And I'm not talking about wishful thinking or positive affirmations or pretending everything is okay when it's not. I'm talking about something real, something profound, something that's been available to you since the day you were born, but maybe nobody ever told you how to use it. There's a spiritual solution to every problem. Not some problems, not most problems, every problem. And when I say spiritual, I'm not asking you to join a religion or sit in meditation for hours or give up your logical mind. I'm talking about recognizing that you are more than just your physical body, more than just your thoughts, more than just the collection of experiences that have shaped you up until now. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, and when you tap into that spiritual nature, when you connect to that source of infinite intelligence that flows through everything and everyone, problems begin to dissolve. Think about the problems in your life right now. Maybe it's money troubles, maybe it's relationship issues, maybe it's health concerns or career frustrations or family conflicts. Whatever it is, you've probably been trying to solve it the same way you've always tried to solve problems. You've been using your thinking mind, analyzing, strategizing, worrying, planning, trying to control every variable and force outcomes to happen. And how's that working for you? If you're honest with yourself, you'll admit that the more you push, the more resistance you meet. The more you worry, the worse you feel. The harder you try to control everything, the more out of control your life becomes. That's because you've been trying to solve spiritual problems with material solutions. You've been trying to fix what's happening on the outside without addressing what's happening on the inside. And it doesn't work that way. It never has, and it never will. The outer world is always a reflection of the inner world. Always, without exception. If you want to change what's happening in your life, you have to change what's happening in your consciousness first. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, that sounds nice, but I have real problems. I have bills to pay. I have relationships that are falling apart. I have a body that's not working the way it should. How is spirituality going to fix that? And I understand that resistance because I've been there myself. I've had times in my life when everything seemed to be falling apart, when the problems felt so overwhelming that the idea of a spiritual solution seemed almost insulting, like telling someone who's drowning that they just need to think positive thoughts. But here's what I learned, and here's what I want you to understand. When I talk about a spiritual solution, I'm not talking about ignoring your problems or pretending they don't exist. I'm talking about approaching them from a completely different level of consciousness. Einstein said you cannot solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. You have to rise above it. You have to access a higher level of awareness, a higher level of understanding, a higher level of being, and that higher level is your spiritual nature. It's the part of you that existed before you were born and will exist after you die. It's the part of you that is connected to everything and everyone. It's the part of you that knows, really knows, that you are not separate from the creative force of the universe. You are an expression of it. You are a piece of it. You are it, experiencing itself through your unique perspective. When you operate from that awareness, when you live from that knowing, problems don't have the same power over you anymore. They don't disappear instantly. Life doesn't become perfect. But your relationship to those problems changes completely. You stop being a victim. You stop feeling helpless. You stop thinking that your happiness depends on circumstances being a certain way. Instead, you become a creator. You become empowered. You recognize that you have the ability to respond to whatever life brings you from a place of peace, from a place of strength, from a place of love. Let me tell you about the difference between problem consciousness and solution consciousness. Problem consciousness is where most people live most of the time. It's a state of mind where you're focused on what's wrong, what's missing, what's not working. You wake up in the morning and immediately start thinking about your problems. You go through your day looking for evidence that your problems are real and valid and justified. You talk about your problems with other people. You replay them in your mind over and over. You imagine worst-case scenarios. You feel like a victim of circumstances. And here's the thing about problem consciousness. It attracts more problems. Like attracts like. What you focus on expands. You're constantly thinking about lack, you create more lack. If you're constantly thinking about conflict, you create more conflict. If you're constantly thinking about illness, you create more illness. Not because there's something wrong with you, but because that's how consciousness works. Your thoughts create your reality. Your beliefs shape your experience. Your dominant mental attitude determines what shows up in your life. Solution consciousness is completely different. It's a state of mind where you're focused on possibilities instead of limitations. You're focused on what you want instead of what you don't want. You're focused on faith instead of fear. You wake up in the morning and you connect to that spiritual source within you. You spend time in silence. You remind yourself of who you really are. You affirm your connection to infinite intelligence. You trust that everything is working out for your highest good, even when you can't see how. And from that place of connection, from that place of trust, from that place of inner peace, you take inspired action, not desperate action, not forced action, not action from a place of fear or lack or need, but action that feels right, action that flows naturally, action that comes from listening to your intuition, to that still small voice within you that always knows the right thing to do. That's the spiritual solution. It's not passive. It's not about sitting around waiting for God or the universe to fix your problems for you. It's about aligning yourself with the creative force of life and allowing that force to work through you. It's about getting your ego out of the way and letting your higher self guide you. It's about surrendering the need to control everything and trusting that there's a bigger intelligence at work, an intelligence that sees the whole picture when you can only see a tiny piece of it. Now, let me talk about surrender for a moment, because this is where a lot of people get confused. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean becoming passive or lazy or irresponsible. Surrender means releasing your attachment to how things have to unfold. It means doing your best and then trusting the outcome to something greater than your limited perspective. It means recognizing that you don't have all the answers, that you can't see all the possibilities, that your way might not be the best way even though your ego thinks it is. I remember a time in my own life when I was struggling with a major problem. Everything I tried wasn't working. Every door I knocked on seemed to be locked. Every solution I came up with led to another dead end. And I was frustrated, I was angry, I was starting to feel hopeless. But then something shifted inside me. I got quiet. I stopped trying so hard. I said, okay, I don't know how to fix this. I don't know what to do. But I trust that there's a solution, and I'm open to receiving guidance. And you know what happened? Within days, completely out of nowhere, an opportunity appeared that I never could have planned for or anticipated. Someone contacted me who I hadn't spoken to in years. A situation resolved itself without my intervention. Resources showed up that I didn't know existed. And I realized that all my struggling and striving and trying to force things to happen had actually been blocking the solution. The moment I got out of the way, the moment I surrendered my need to control, the solution appeared. That's how it works. That's the spiritual solution. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's alignment. It's allowing. It's trusting that you live in an intelligent universe that is always working in your favor, even when it doesn't look like it, even when it feels like everything is falling apart. And here's another crucial piece of this: forgiveness. If you want to experience spiritual solutions to your problems, you have to be willing to forgive. You have to forgive everyone who you think has wronged you. You have to forgive yourself for all the mistakes you think you've made. You have to forgive life for not turning out the way you thought it should. Because as long as you're holding on to resentment, as long as you're holding on to anger, as long as you're holding on to blame, you're blocking the flow of spiritual energy through your life. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning bad behavior. It doesn't mean allowing people to mistreat you. It doesn't mean pretending that hurtful things didn't happen. Forgiveness means releasing the emotional charge around those experiences. It means choosing peace over being right. It means recognizing that holding on to anger and resentment hurts you far more than it hurts anyone else. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. When you forgive, you free yourself. You open up space for miracles to occur. You allow love to flow through you again. And love is the ultimate spiritual solution, because love is what you are at your core. Beneath all the fear, beneath all the pain, beneath all the conditioning and programming and beliefs that you've picked up along the way, there is love. Pure, unconditional, infinite love. That's your true nature. That's who you really are. And when you operate from that place of love, when you make decisions from that place, when you respond to life from that place, everything changes. Your problems don't necessarily disappear overnight, but your experience of them transforms. You stop resisting what is. You stop fighting against reality. You stop making yourself miserable by insisting that things should be different than they are. Instead, you accept what is, and from that place of acceptance, you ask, what's the highest response I can make to this situation? What would love do here? How can I grow from this experience? See, every problem is an opportunity for spiritual growth. Every challenge is an invitation to expand your consciousness. Every difficulty is a chance to discover more of who you really are. When you understand that, when you really get that at a cellular level, you stop seeing yourself as a victim and you start seeing yourself as a student. Life becomes your teacher. Every experience, pleasant or unpleasant, becomes a lesson that's designed to help you evolve, to help you remember your true nature, to help you become more of who you came here to be. And let me tell you something else that's really important. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't have to know the exact steps to take or the precise path to follow. All you have to do is take the next step, just the next step. And when you take that step from a place of spiritual alignment, from a place of inner guidance, from a place of trust, the next step after that will reveal itself. And then the next one, and the next one. That's how spiritual solutions work. They unfold. They reveal themselves. They emerge from the silence, from the stillness, from the space between your thoughts. That's why meditation is so powerful. That's why prayer is so effective. That's why spending time in nature or listening to music or doing anything that quiets your busy mind and connects you to something greater than yourself is so valuable. Because in those moments of connection, you receive guidance, you receive inspiration, you receive the next piece of the puzzle. But you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to trust. You have to be willing to act on the guidance you receive, even when it doesn't make logical sense, even when your rational mind is screaming at you that it's crazy, because spiritual guidance often doesn't make sense to the logical mind. It comes from a different level of intelligence, a level that sees possibilities that your limited human perspective can't see. I want to talk about gratitude now, because gratitude is one of the most powerful spiritual practices you can engage in. When you're grateful, when you're genuinely appreciative for what you have right now in this moment, you automatically raise your vibration. You automatically shift out of problem consciousness and into solution consciousness. You automatically align yourself with the creative force of the universe. And I'm not talking about fake gratitude or forced gratitude or pretending to be thankful when you're really not. I'm talking about authentic appreciation for the good that already exists in your life. Because no matter how bad things seem, there's always something to be grateful for. You're alive, you're breathing, you can see, you can hear. You have access to clean water. You have food to eat. You have a roof over your head. These are miracles. We take them for granted because we have them, but they're miracles nonetheless. And when you start your day with gratitude, when you end your day with gratitude, when you practice gratitude throughout your day, you train your mind to look for what's right instead of what's wrong. You train your consciousness to focus on abundance instead of lack. You train your spirit to recognize the blessings that surround you at all times. And what happens? More blessings show up, more good things appear, more solutions present themselves. Because like attracts like. What you appreciate, appreciates. Now, I want to address the question of why bad things happen to good people. Why do innocent children suffer? Why do terrible tragedies occur? Why does life seem so unfair sometimes? And I'm not going to give you some simplistic answer or some religious platitude that doesn't really satisfy the question. The truth is, I don't know why these things happen. I don't understand all the mysteries of the universe. I don't have all the answers. But what I do know is this: we live in a world of duality. We live in a world where there's light and dark, pleasure and pain, birth and death. That's the nature of physical reality. And from a spiritual perspective, from a higher level of consciousness, all of these experiences are opportunities for growth, for learning, for evolution. Not because God is punishing us or testing us, but because contrast is how we expand. Challenges are how we discover our strength. Difficulties are how we develop compassion and wisdom and resilience. That doesn't make the pain less real. It doesn't make the suffering less valid. But it does give it meaning. It does give it purpose. And when you can find meaning in your suffering, when you can find purpose in your pain, when you can ask yourself, what is this experience trying to teach me? How am I being called to grow? Who am I becoming through this challenge? Then you transform that suffering into something sacred. You alchemize that pain into wisdom. You turn that problem into a portal for spiritual awakening. And that's the ultimate spiritual solution. Not the elimination of all problems, but the transformation of your relationship to those problems. Not the absence of challenges, but the development of the consciousness that can meet those challenges with grace and strength and love. Not a life where everything goes your way, but a life where you trust that everything is guiding you toward your highest good, even the things that hurt, even the things that don't make sense. Let me share something with you that might change how you see your problems. Every problem you're facing right now exists because you're ready to solve it. You're ready to grow beyond it. You're ready to evolve into the version of yourself that doesn't have that problem anymore. Life doesn't give you challenges you can't handle. The universe doesn't test you beyond your capacity. Everything you're experiencing right now is precisely what you need to experience to become who you're meant to be. Think about that for a moment. Your financial problems are teaching you something about abundance and trust. Your relationship problems are teaching you something about love and communication and boundaries. Your health problems are teaching you something about self-care and listening to your body and honoring your needs. Your career problems are teaching you something about purpose and passion and following your heart. Nothing is random, nothing is meaningless, everything is part of your spiritual curriculum. And when you approach your problems from that perspective, when you see them as assignments rather than punishments, when you see them as opportunities rather than obstacles, everything shifts. You stop feeling like a victim. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this trying to show me? What am I meant to learn? How can I use this experience to become stronger, wiser, more loving? That's personal responsibility at the spiritual level. That's owning your power. That's recognizing that you are not at the mercy of circumstances. You are a creator. You are a chooser. You are a powerful spiritual being with the ability to shape your experience through the quality of your consciousness. And your consciousness is shaped by your beliefs. So if you want different results in your life, if you want to experience spiritual solutions to your problems, you have to examine your beliefs. You have to become aware of the thoughts you're thinking, the stories you're telling yourself, the programs that are running in the background of your mind. Because most of your beliefs aren't even yours. They were given to you by your parents, your teachers, your culture, your religion, your society, and many of them are limiting you. Many of them are keeping you stuck. Many of them are creating the very problems you're trying to solve. So question everything. Don't accept any belief just because someone told you it was true. Don't accept any limitation just because you've always experienced it. Don't accept any story about who you are or what you're capable of just because it's familiar. Test your beliefs. Challenge them. Ask yourself, is this really true? Is this serving me? Is this helping me create the life I want to live? And when you discover a belief that's limiting you, replace it. Choose a new belief. Choose a belief that empowers you, that expands you, that aligns with your highest vision for your life. Because you can do that. You have that power. Your beliefs are not fixed. Your identity is not fixed. Your destiny is not fixed. You are a work in progress. You are always becoming, and you get to decide who you're becoming. That's the beauty of being human. That's the gift of having consciousness. You have choice. You have free will. You have the ability to direct your attention, to choose your thoughts, to cultivate your inner state. And when you use that ability wisely, when you use it consciously, when you use it in alignment with your spiritual nature, miracles happen, solutions appear, problems dissolve, life flows. And flow is the natural state of the universe. Everything in nature flows. Rivers flow, seasons flow, breath flows, life flows. It's only the human mind that resists, that clings, that tries to hold on to what's passing away or force what's not ready to arrive. But when you learn to flow with life instead of fighting against it, when you learn to surrender to the current instead of swimming upstream, everything becomes easier, everything becomes more graceful, everything becomes more joyful. That doesn't mean you become passive. Flow is not passivity. Flow is alignment. It's taking inspired action. It's doing what needs to be done without resistance, without resentment, without making it harder than it needs to be. It's showing up fully for whatever life is asking of you in this moment without dragging the past into it or projecting the future onto it. It's being here now, present, aware, responsive, alive. And when you live like that, when you bring that quality of presence to everything you do, problems lose their grip on you. Because most problems exist in time, they exist in the past, where you're still holding on to hurt or regret. Or they exist in the future, where you're worried about what might happen or afraid that things won't work out. But in the present moment, right here, right now, there is no problem. There's just what is. There's just this breath, this heartbeat, this moment of being alive. Can you feel that? Can you sense that right now, in this very moment, you're okay? You might have challenges, you might have concerns, you might have situations that need to be addressed. But right here, right now, you're breathing, you're alive, you're aware. And that awareness, that consciousness, that presence, that's your true nature. That's who you really are. That's the spiritual essence that can never be diminished, never be destroyed, never be taken away from you. And when you rest in that awareness, when you abide in that presence, when you identify with that spiritual essence, rather than with your problems, you discover a peace that passes all understanding. You discover a joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. You discover a strength that comes from something far greater than your individual will. You discover that you are supported, you are guided, you are loved beyond measure. That's not just a nice idea. That's not just positive thinking. That's truth. That's reality. That's the way the universe actually works. You are not separate from the source of all life. You are an expression of it. You are a manifestation of it. You are it, knowing itself through your unique experience. And when you realize that, when you truly know that in the core of your being, everything changes. Your problems don't define you anymore. Your circumstances don't limit you anymore. Your past doesn't control you anymore. You are free. Free to create, free to choose, free to become. Free to live from your highest vision of who you are. And that's the ultimate spiritual solution, not solving all your problems, but transcending the consciousness that created them in the first place. So how do you do that? How do you shift from problem consciousness to solution consciousness? How do you move from fear to faith, from lack to abundance, from separation to connection? It's simpler than you think. It's not about doing more. It's about being more. It's about coming home to yourself. It's about remembering who you really are. Start each day in silence. Before you check your phone, before you turn on the news, before you jump into your to-do list, spend time connecting to your spiritual source. It doesn't have to be long. Even 5 minutes of quiet reflection, of conscious breathing, of feeling your connection to something greater than yourself can shift your entire day. In that silence, you remember. You remember that you're not alone. You remember that you're guided. You remember that you're loved. Throughout your day, pause. Take conscious breaths. Check in with yourself. Ask, am I operating from fear or faith right now? Am I coming from my ego or my higher self? Am I trying to control or am I trusting? And when you notice that you've slipped into problem consciousness, when you catch yourself worrying or complaining or feeling like a victim, gently redirect your attention. Choose a different thought. Choose a better feeling. Choose to trust. And at the end of each day, reflect. Look for the lessons. Look for the blessings. Look for the ways that life was supporting you, even in the challenges, even in the difficulties. Write down what you're grateful for. Write down what you learned. Write down how you grew, because growth is the goal. Evolution is the purpose. Becoming more conscious, more loving, more aligned with your true nature, that's why you're here. And when you live like that, when you make spirituality a daily practice rather than an occasional experience, when you make conscious connection to your source a priority rather than an afterthought, your life transforms. Not overnight, not without challenges, but steadily, surely, powerfully. Problems that used to consume you lose their power. Situations that used to stress you out become manageable. People who used to trigger you no longer affect you in the same way. Why? Because you've changed. Your consciousness has shifted. Your identity has expanded. You're no longer operating from the limited perspective of the ego. You're operating from the unlimited perspective of the spirit. And from that place, anything is possible. From that place, miracles are natural. From that place, solutions appear that you never could have thought of with your rational mind. I want you to know that no matter what you're going through right now, no matter how difficult things seem, no matter how hopeless you might feel, there is a way through. There is a solution. There is hope. But you have to look for it in the right place. You have to look for it within. You have to look for it in your connection to something greater than yourself. You have to look for it in your spiritual nature. The answers you're seeking aren't in the outside world. They're not in another person or a different job or a bigger bank account or a better body. Those things might be part of the solution, but they're not the source of the solution. The source is within you. It's always been within you. It always will be within you. You just have to learn to access it. You just have to learn to trust it. You just have to learn to live from it. And when you do, when you make that shift from outer dependence to inner guidance, from material solutions to spiritual solutions, from ego consciousness to soul consciousness, your entire experience of life transforms. You stop feeling like you're fighting an uphill battle. You stop feeling exhausted and overwhelmed. You stop feeling separate and alone. Instead, you feel supported, you feel guided, you feel connected to a power and an intelligence that is always working for your highest good. That power is real. That intelligence is real. That support is real. It's not something you have to earn. It's not something you have to be good enough for. It's not something that's available to some people but not to others. It's your birthright. It's who you are. It's your nature. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, and when you live from that truth, when you operate from that understanding, when you make decisions from that awareness, life works. Not perfectly, not without challenges, not without growth opportunities, but it works in a way that feels right, in a way that feels aligned, in a way that feels meaningful. And that's what we're all really looking for, isn't it? Not a life without problems, but a life that means something, a life that matters, a life that's connected to something greater than our individual concerns. You can have that life, you can live that way, you can experience that connection. Starting right now, not tomorrow, not when your problems are solved, not when your circumstances change, right now, in this moment, by choosing to remember who you really are, by choosing to connect to your spiritual source, by choosing to trust that there is a solution, even when you can't see it yet. That's faith, real faith. Not blind faith, not naive faith, but faith that's grounded in the understanding that you live in an intelligent, responsive, loving universe. Faith that's based on the recognition that you are part of that intelligence, that responsiveness, that love. Faith that comes from knowing, really knowing, that you are never alone, never abandoned, never without support. And when you live from that faith, when you let that faith guide your choices, when you allow that faith to shape your experience, problems become less problematic. Challenges become less challenging. Difficulties become less difficult, not because they disappear, but because you've changed how you relate to them. You've changed the consciousness you bring to them. You've changed who you are in the face of them. And that changes everything. Because you are not your problems. You are not your circumstances. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your limitations. You are a spiritual being of infinite worth and infinite potential and infinite capacity for growth and healing and transformation. That's who you really are. That's what you really are. And when you remember that, when you live from that, when you express that in everything you do, you become unstoppable. Not because you never face obstacles, but because obstacles can't stop you anymore. They can't define you. They can't diminish you. They can only strengthen you, teach you, help you grow into more of who you're meant to be. And that's the gift of problems. That's the purpose of challenges. That's why spiritual solutions are always available, because every problem is actually an opportunity in disguise. An opportunity to trust more, an opportunity to love more, an opportunity to grow more, an opportunity to remember more of who you really are. And when you seize that opportunity, when you say yes to the lesson, when you choose growth over comfort and expansion over safety and faith over fear, you tap into a power that's always been within you, waiting to be claimed. Claim it now, right here, right now, not by doing anything, but by being, by recognizing, by remembering. You are not separate from the source of all solutions. You are connected to it. You are part of it. You are it. And when you know that, when you really know that, not just intellectually, but in your bones, in your heart, in your soul, everything becomes possible. Every problem has a spiritual solution. Every single one. And that solution is always available to you, always accessible, always ready to reveal itself when you're ready to receive it. So be ready, be open, be willing, be trusting, be patient, be present, be you, your true you, your spiritual you, your unlimited you. That's the you that came here to live fully, to love completely, to grow endlessly, to contribute uniquely, to shine brightly. That's the you that knows there's a way through every difficulty, a lesson in every challenge, a blessing in every burden. That's the you that's connected to infinite intelligence, infinite creativity, infinite possibilities. Live from that place, operate from that consciousness, trust that guidance, follow that wisdom, and watch as your problems transform, as solutions appear, as your life becomes a reflection of the truth that's always been within you. You are a spiritual being, and there is a spiritual solution to every problem you will ever face.